it's Michelle, and welcome to my third vlog 3, on my vlog series for my newly published book Identity, which is available to purchase on www.amazon.com or www.amazon.com.au, and you can purchase it as an ebook or a paperback. So today I'm going to just briefly give you a little bit of insight behind chapter 2 titled Cold. And in this chapter I basically take you through what it was like for me in the very early stages of going through mania for the very first time, and how it kind of started. So I basically had been demoted at work, and I convinced myself that I didn't really care about it. I vented to my friends about it, and yet that night, after I'd been demoted, I couldn't sleep, and this basically went on for a couple of nights, and there was a lot of kind of I remember that weekend being not a typical boring weekend, like, usually weekends would be cleaning or just, sitting around at home. But this particular weekend I was going to go see the movie Salt with a few girlfriends from work, and then we were also going to have some friends over for dinner and drinks. So it was going to be an exciting weekend where, I'd get to interact with people and just have a good time, basically, is what I, was looking forward to. So having not slept in a couple of days led to me somehow having a lot of energy, and I guess this is where the mania started to kick in. And my behaviour of being manic didn't really start to show until we had our friends over for dinner and drinks, and I had the music up really loud, and I was dancing and laughing and just acting with completely no inhibitions, which was completely unlike me, which at the time I couldn't comprehend. I was just having such a good time, and I didn't care what anybody thought of me. I didn't care what I was doing, whether it was wrong or right or made people feel uncomfortable. I was just excited, and I felt so alive for the first time in a long time, and yeah, at that point as well, I remember my boyfriend at the time looking at me quite strangely. Even though I was having a good time, I didn't understand why he wasn't having a good time, like I had done something to offend him. But I felt as though he just kept looking at me, kind of wondering why I was acting the way I was acting. And it felt like at that time a really negative thing, like he was against me being happy, which I, in hindsight, can look back and think that was probably a really big misunderstanding, because I was manic, and I also experienced the same kind of thing further down the track when I also experienced another manic episode with my family, and I can clearly remember, like, my sisters and my brothers, looking at me and just thinking their faces like basically said to me, "What is wrong with you? Why are you acting this way?" And we don't know when you're going to get better. This illness is completely unpredictable. And they just looked at me as though they didn't know me, and they didn't know what to think. So I guess, even though I was in my own head and I was experiencing so many things in terms of mania for myself, when I look back now, I can kind of see in hindsight, how mental illness can have a really negative effect on the ones around you who love you. But when you're going through mania, you don't have the ability to comprehend that, especially when you are completely sleep deprived and you can't think straight. And also that night, after everybody had gone to bed, I decided to stay up again because I just had so much energy. And it started with me doing the dishes with my boyfriend at the time, who in the book I call Thomas, which isn't his real name, but for privacy reasons I've changed his name. And so he went to bed, and then I was going to sleep out in the lounge room, but I just couldn't sleep, and I ended up outside having a cigarette and thinking about my dad, because it was past midnight and now it was Father's Day 2010, and he had passed away when I was 16. So I was still grieving over the loss of him, even though, it had been 8 to 9 years later. And then I go into the next morning and I end up having a huge fight with Thomas, and I end up leaving, and I just am a complete emotional wreck, and I just feel like I'm by myself and that nobody cares about me and I've got nothing and no one. And basically that's the end of chapter 2. And it's interesting to note that the definition of mania in the Oxford Dictionary of English is written about as mental illness marked by periods of great excitement or euphoria, delusions and overactivity. So this was the beginning of mania for me, and this is where I was experiencing great excitement and euphoria, and a whole wide range of different emotions. But you can clearly see that within this chapter, this is where I peak with mania. So I hope you enjoy reading chapter 2. Love to hear what you think, and give me a message if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. God bless.